you're coming in. I sent you your assessment. On your assessment, you tested. What was the first test you ever took, Christine, and what did it tell you?
I think it's a 1.
Okay. So her test came in as a 1. Christina's a client. She's coming in for relational issues, kind of personal self-help, generalized stuff, right? We'll just make that
I've
up.
also been told by a few people that might or may not be on this call that I'm a 1.
Oh, really? Yes, we're horrible. So you're not supposed to type other people, but I don't know. It's so funny. My mentor, Brenda Schaefer, is an Enneagram 2, and she believed she was a 1 for so long. And Helen Palmer, who's kind of like the Enneagram guru, kept telling her, no, you're a 2, you're a 2. So I think this happens more than we may let on. So for those of you joining, Christine is my faux client. She's coming in with some relational issues. She took a couple of tests before she came in, and she showed as a 1. But Christine, after you read about things, which type did you feel like resonated for you?
I'm somewhere between a 1 and a 2. So
Great.
2 is a I think I've it's so hard to say because I think in the past, before I did my trauma work, I was definitely identified with 1 strongly, or I would have, but my 2 is definitely probably where my health is. I'm healthier when I'm in the 2.
What do you feel like you resonate with in health with the 2? Will you tell me a little more about that?
I think I stay on my side of the street more, and I care about people more than I'm trying to get somebody to be how I want them to be, in my like perfectionism. So I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Oh, isn't it? It's so tough, right? Gifts of imperfection. Sometimes we just got to embrace the heck out of that, right? So as an aside, okay, so what you're hearing from the client right off the get-go is some of those core motivations do not fit core motivations of 2. So right away, my spidey sense is going up like, no. What she's telling me fits more of the core identity, core motivation of the 1. Okay, so we'll go back to, yeah, right? So what helped you to get in recovery with perfectionism?
Al-Anon and Alan Braverman.
Al-Anon and Alan Braverman, the best combo ever.
Right?
Yes. What did you find in the 12 steps? Like when you were doing your character defects, what came up for you?
Resentment.
Oof.
Yep. So that's heavily, well, I won't say, but I think that's from listening to your podcast, the 1 more. So yeah, I would say, because when I did my step 4, I did a full-on step 4 and 5. And when I did that, I was in a workshop, and the first week, they said, write down all your resentments. And I was like, yes. I'm like, yes. And then the next week you come back and they say, okay, now write down for the next week what your part in all those resentments are. And I'm like, no. But I did it, and it was so healing. And I had a wonderful person listen to my 5th step and had a
amazing, right?
And yeah.
4th and 5th step are beautiful. It's beautiful. Life changing, right?
Life changing, right.
Totally. So as an aside, with the Enneagram, it is amazing. So if you have anybody in recovery, Enneagram's amazing because it gives you a shortcut to your character defects. Basically, how we usually type is from the low side. So the healthier people get, the harder it is to type them. So what this client's telling me is like, hey, a lot of her motivation, a lot of her core wounds are going to come out in that 5th step. So I could pull from that to help with me typing her. Great. So what you found was there was like a lot of resentment. And what did you find kind of was your part when you went through that 4th and 5th step?
Oh my. It was a while ago. I think I just didn't feel understood.
Yeah.
A lot of times, which is very congruent with my childhood. So my childhood wounding. So I think I just didn't feel heard, understood, seen, things like that.
Totally. How would you feel? Like, what would you do to get seen by your family?
Be perfect.
Oh.
So, or just fly under the radar.
Wow.
So just not, I just spent a lot of time in my room and be a really good student until I got to be a teenager. And then I I was a little rebellious, but not terrible either. So
As an aside, this is common in Enneagram ones that in their teen years, they do the crazy stuff and then it stops. Then they get really out of control at being in control. But there's usually this little like gap where they're in control at being out of control because they can no longer do the over adaptation of perfectionism. I love it. You're giving me great content. Okay, so wow, so you did that, and that's how you lived, and you kind of even when I hear that, Christine, and you're very knowledgeable in the PIT model, I hear a lost child in there too. Yeah,
profoundly.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We won't do therapy today, so I'll move on a little bit.
I'm okay.
You're doing great. You're doing so amazing. Okay, so gosh, Christine, I know you came in and you told me like I've been having some conflict with my husband. What are his common complaints? If he came in here and told me like these are the things that are so hard for me with my partner, what would he tell you?
So he wouldn't complain until I made a face at him, and then he would say I was judgmental.
Oh,
So
got it. Got it.
he's very I think he's 8 maybe. I'm trying to
Oh,
figure him out. But he's just kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and except for he doesn't like me judging him or telling. So that's part of my Al-Anon work too, was staying on my side of the street,
yes.
which I don't
So
always do because I'm imperfect.
with the judgment piece from your perspective, like would you even say anything out loud?
No, I use my face. That's very effective.
Aside, that's a one thing, because ones will feel one thing, express another, but their face, you can feel like the anger, the resentment from coming from the one, because they are the gut space. I'm moving quick, guys, but we'll give you more content as we go. So what this is telling me is like, hey, she really fits an Enneagram 1. And let's say she comes in and she says, I'm a 2, right? You don't actually want to go right up against that. You just roll with it for a while, is what I make up. Why do you roll with it? Because it's hard. The Enneagram is about accepting our imperfections. For one, that is the hardest thing to do. It is the hardest thing because they judge themselves way harsher than anybody else ever would. Okay, great. So Christine, it sounds like what's happening is he's picking up on something that you might be experiencing that you aren't even articulating, right? Like you're trying to be appropriate about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For you, what's made the biggest difference for you with working on some of that perfectionism, with some of that resentment?
I think I would give Pia Melody most of the credit for that and her model.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. And in the 12 steps, but again,
Yes,
that's embedded into the model. So
very much so. When you look at the 5 core issues, you're so well versed on them. Which ones would you say when you came in were some of the biggest? Like, yep, I gotta go for that issue, that issue, that issue,
yeah,
that issue.
self-esteem. So when the how I got involved in any of this is so because of Terry Real, and he said I had a little mini consult at a conference with him, and he goes, it's all self-esteem work. So that's where I needed to start. So core issue 1,
Right.
core issue 3.
Yes. When you did core issue 1, did you find that you were esteemed by performance or esteemed by others' approval? Where would you kind of put that?
Probably performance.
Okay. Will you tell me a little more about that, about how performance would esteem?
I think just again everything, well, it's a little bit attribute too, but I think if it if I it's so far in the past, so it's hard to even remember.
Yeah.
But I think it was just how things appeared. If I appeared okay, then I was okay. But that was not congruent.
Yeah, totally.
So
Right.
it's that fight. It's like a fight, internal fight all the time.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So here, it's always in our language with our type, as an aside. With the other than 9, 8, and 1 are going to show anger in the language. Now, 1 will definitely shift the language to, they won't call it anger, they'll call it something different. Ones really don't like to admit. I'm an 8. All my stuff is coming from the 8 version, so please give me a little grace with how I talk about things. The way that the 1 will show it is they don't want to say it. Like, they don't want to, from my version of reality, they don't want to own it. But I think for the 1, it's such a hit on their worth. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
To even say that there's something that isn't perfect about yourself before you got in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
What this tells me too about Christine as a client is she's really healthy. Because if you have a 1 coming in, they're not going to talk about any of this stuff. You're going to be working on helping them with acceptance of the self, acceptance of the imperfection, and you're going to be doing, a lot of that. When I think about 1, a lot of the Brene Brown stuff, you're just going to be, oh, let's talk about Brene. Let's watch her on Netflix. You're just going to be working that with your clients so that they can know their worth. Because 1s are so beautiful, so amazing. Like, when I think of you, Christine, I think of, like, you are dutiful. You kick butt. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. Like, you are like rocking and rolling, and you've worked so hard too on those overworked muscles, Christine, of needing to be perfect. And I think when 1s get healthier, they show more 7. They're fun. They let loose a little bit. They can laugh at themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what I'd say too with Christine, because she identifies with so much of the 2, and I know Christine pretty well. So we've talked about this a couple of times, and I've mentioned, are you sure you're not a 1? A few times, and Christine probably wants to slap me. Shut up, you 8. But she, yes. So what was I saying that? Okay. So we've already talked about this a few times before we're even going in for, like, hey, I just really wonder if 1 isn't you. So when we talk about typing, like, hey, your client actually doesn't have to know. If you know, that's half the battle, because you can help them with balancing those 5 core issues of immaturity, which we'll talk about a little bit further, but it's basically like helping people with balance so that they can have the relationships that they want. Any other questions, Christine? Do you feel like you got anything out of this process?
Yeah, it helped me see where I've been and identify more with that 1. It's hard to say that.
Really?
I don't know why.
You're such a
Maybe
healthy
I don't
1.
want to be a 1.
I know, we don't. I did not want to be an 8.
But I do identify a lot with the 2 piece too.
Right.
So I think that's
totally
a wing, or whatever you call it. So
I agree, Christine. I agree. You have a ton of 2 on board. You are very relational. And so when you look at the 2, you're looking for, like, is this person driven by relationship? And 2 is different from 9, and that 9 is driven by the desire to not rock that boat too much. And Brooke might shoot me for how I'm talking about this. But the way I see it is, like, the 2, it's the desire for connection.
mm-hmm.
And I see this with 1s a lot. This is a great point. Yeah. But I see your nature. I see you as a gut type. Do you agree with me when I say that?
Yep.
Yeah. Because those gut types, the instinct is going to drive the motivation, the behavior. And as an 8, so if you're a gut type, you will naturally usually connect with other gut types very quickly. What I've noticed as an 8, and I'd be curious with other 8s, some of the other types I don't connect with as quickly because they're outside of my my center. So your body center, which is where we're going to go first in our travel through the Enneagram today, is kind of where the center of knowledge is. It's usually slightly overworked, but it's also the gift. So anything that's overworked is also your gift. Just like a big, huge muscle. Wow, you get that muscle without having to do many arm curls. Yep, it's my gift. Oh, your legs are so underdeveloped. Yep, not my gift. So as you can see, Enneagram is a great way to have a fast track to understanding your clients, have a map to your clients without having to gain a ton of information. So that's why I love it. And I think you guys are going to love it too.